It's Isaac. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
All right. Is that Isaac or Isaac? Am I saying it right?
Isaac. Yes, sir. Isaac.
Isaac. Before we get you in here, it's been a while since I've done interviews, so I kind of dropped the ball last time, and luckily Landon Lewis kind of picked it up and ran with it. So usually I do this towards the beginning and towards the end, so you guys get the proper shout-outs and people get a chance, if they miss it the first time, catch it at the end of the interview. But before we jump into this, let them know where they can find you social media-wise, if it be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you use, and also throw out your sponsors, those that make this all possible for you, before we jump into this.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show today. And you can find me anywhere on social media, Isaac Kitzmiller Racing, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and just about any platform of social media. And all the people that make it possible is ACR Motorsports, All Construction, Mulch, Hornaday Development, Joe Ryan Race Cars, Bobby Roberts Logging, ARI, Brake Safe, and just everybody else that I like to think everybody else makes this possible for me to be able to go out every weekend race car.
Well, we're glad that we got a chance to get you in here, especially with the season and as busy as you guys stay. I'm interested in what intrigues a 14-year-old, now 14-year-old, but a young boy to want to race. What got you into racing? What got you started down that path of you picked the most expensive sport to possibly participate in. What got you into racing? Yeah.
Actually, my family has always been in the motorsports industry, and they started racing drag cars and on the dirt, and then they went to dirt go-karts, and my dad got a chance to actually race ARCA at Daytona International Speedway, and the second year he got to do it, I actually went to it, and I just fell in love with the speed and the loud engines and just everything to do with motorsports, and that's how I got a part of it. And I first ran go-karts, then I ran legend cars, and now I'm racing for Joe Ryan race cars. So that's basically how I got started.
Now, most of us at a young age, we get in a go-kart. We don't think nothing of it. We just think, hell yeah, we're out the go-kart track with our brothers, our dad, our family, having a good time. Most of us don't go into this thinking there's going to be more to it. At what point getting out there in the go-kart track did you really realize, I want more than just this. I want this to be my profession. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, I always had the idea in the back of my head that I kind of wanted to get to the NASCAR level, but really when I started winning races and wanted to go faster, honestly, I really was like, man, I want to do this. So that's when I decided that I wanted to do this as a career.
And I guess it would be 12 if I'm calculating about this right, that you started, knowing that a lot of the drivers these days start young. I think Landon Lewis last week talked about 5 or 6 years old, maybe 4. And a lot of drivers we've had in the past start about the same age group, between 6 and 8 or so. Was you nervous at all? Did you feel that you were behind the ball at all, not having those years of experience compared to others that have already been racing probably a good 5-6 years before you jumped in there with them?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous my first race, and just knowing that all these kids have had twice the experience as me. But I just knew getting started that I had to work twice as hard just to get caught up on the level they were. And that's exactly what I did, and I'm currently trying to do.
Isaac, this is Chris Creighton. known as the yellow caution flag. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the interview and all, and my mind's starting to, process everything that you're saying about starting out in the go-karts and now you're with the Hornaday development team. Was that the initial goal, like when you first started driving? Of course, we hear of kids at 5, 6, 7 years old starting out in the go-karts. You were probably, I guess, considered a late bloomer in that. Was that, at what point in time did that become the structured goal to become a development driver through the Hornaday program?
Yeah, definitely. I actually got to start testing with Joe Ryan race cars, and I just picked it up and basically got on there, and that's how I started with it. Right.
And so, did you have to qualify for anything to do that, or was it how did you get brought into that development organization?
Yeah, I just worked hard for it, and they just eventually got on there. And now I am currently on Hornaday Development and having some of the best driver coaching that there is.
So there's driver coaching and all that's involved in this development program. That was kind of my follow-up question to this. What exactly does the development program bring to the table? And after a successful tenure, what is the next step above the Hornaday Development Program, or does that carry you through and on into the ARCA series?
Yeah, the Hornaday Development will carry me through the ARCA series and then hopefully to the NASCAR level.
Right. So what is the timetable that you have set forth? Are you going late model racing, or what's the next step after the enduro classes that you're doing now?
Yeah, so hopefully I'm going to race late models and hopefully in the Cars Tour, because I really respect that, and it's some of the best racing in the country right now. And yeah, definitely going to try to make to go to late models, and then after late models, be able to go to ARCA.
Now, let me ask you something, Isaac. There's been a whole list of drivers that have come through and slept on Ron Hornaday's couch. And those drivers, anywhere from Kevin Harvick to any driver that ever has come out of the West Coast. Not to have to sleep on Ron Hornaday's couch, but how does it feel knowing that you're going through that same kind of developmental program that drivers like Kevin Harvick and other successful Cup drivers have gone through? Does that give you kind of a sense of security as you prepare for your next step in your career?
Yeah, it definitely does. And seeing how the Hornaday development and Candace Hornaday has just carried many drivers through to the NASCAR level, it definitely gives me some security and makes me feel good that I'm in the right spot.
Tell us about the success in the legend cars. Was it overwhelming at times? Was it easy for you? Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, so it was definitely overwhelming in the beginning. It was really hard to keep up with the people that have been racing for more years than I have, and eventually I started to do better, and now I'm just really trying to understand the process of racing and getting into it now, and hopefully getting and winning races.
How would you describe your 2023 season? It seems that it's been a pretty successful year. Looks like we're still waiting on the big W. But overall, how do you feel this 2023 season has gone? And what was your goals going into the 2023 season that you want to accomplish this year to prepare yourself for the next season?
Yeah, I feel like the 2023 season has definitely been a learning process, and I've learned a lot through it and had tons of fun throughout the 2023 season. And my goals are just to probably eventually be able to win and move up to the next level. My goals that I had to do it was just to learn. That's the main thing, and get success when possible, and mainly learn.
What do you feel so far this year was your best race, a race that maybe a decision here or a decision there you possibly could have won, and what was maybe your worst race this season, something that you totally wish you could take back that just totally ruined the whole day or the whole evening?
Yeah, one of my best races definitely this season has been at Wake County Speedway, and I fought hard for a second, and it was the race at Wake County is good, and you're racing against people like Carson Hayslip that are good. And, yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, what was the second question you asked?
A race, your worst race of the season, a race that either you made a mistake or maybe the car just wasn't set up right and it just was a bad night all the way around.
Yeah, I don't know if this is my worst race of the season, but a race that I could take back was whenever I was leading the summer shootout, and I just went too high on a restart, and the other guy got below me, and I lost the race just from that little stuff.
Now, I know I listened to another interview of yours, and you were talking about possibly getting on dirt. Did you make it on any dirt tracks yet?
Yes, sir. We actually just came back from a 10-day trip in North Dakota, and I raced there. That was really fun, and I learned a lot about car controlment and everything. And I actually got finished fourth. Those guys out there have been racing for 10 years at the same tracks, and I felt pretty good about that since those guys really good dirt.
Well, I left that one kind of for Chris, because Chris is the dirt man here.
Yeah, so I was just checking out over at the INEX Legends Series, and so I can see through my race pass that you did go out west. You went to Cheyenne Speedway and you finished 7th. You were at Jamestown Speedway, Red River Valley Speedway, where you had a 10th place finish. Is this typically a West Coast type Legend Series, or how did the Legend cars wind up all the way at Red River Valley Speedway?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure about that. How we got there is by we knew people that actually raced down there. Glenn Mitchell, we're really good friends with him, and he races down there. He's very successful down there. So we figured, why not make a trip to North Dakota for some dirt racing, and it was well worth it.
Oh, wow. So y'all just decided to load the family up and head out to North Dakota and do some dirt track racing. That's a big guy there, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right.
You like the...
What? Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
I was saying, do you like the dirt better or the pavement better?
That's definitely a hard answer, and I don't know if I could pick one because they're just both very, and I love them both.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm gonna wrap up after you get done.
Okay. When you were a kid and you were watching racing and all growing up, who was it that you idolized?
Yeah, I definitely idolized Kevin Harvick, Ron Hornaday, just because the way they drove and their aggression, but they didn't wreck people, if you wanted to say. And it was just I grew up watching them, and it was the best thing. I loved them, and I watched them every Sunday, Friday, or whatever the truck race and the cup races.
Right. Okay. And if you were to pick any number to race under, what number would that be? Isaac.
Are you talking about the Cup Series?
Yeah. If you had a number to choose to race, if you could pick any number that you wanted to race in the Cup Series, what number would you pick?
I'll honestly probably pick the 54 of Joe Gibbs. I think that is a really good ride, and I love the number. I like the look of it.
Like the look of it. Well, that's cool. All right, Mr. C.J. Sports, I'm going to send it back to you, man. Isaac, it was great meeting you, sir, and I hope that you have a great career, and I'll be keeping my eye on you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice talking to you.
We'll get you a couple more questions, and we'll get you wrapped up. I want to get a little more personal with you before we get you out of here for the night. Also, like I said, I've listened to a couple of your interviews, more specifically one of them I listened all the way through, so I kind of know a little bit of the answer, but I also scroll through some social media, and so I do have some questions. I know the answer, pretty much answered this already, but for the listeners, your spare time, what do you like to do?
Yeah, I love to hunt and fish. Actually, every year I bow hunt in Maysville, West Virginia, and I go fishing in the rivers and the lakes around the West Virginia area. And we also do a little bit of golfing. It's everybody in family is kind of picked it up, and that's what we enjoy.
How far from West Virginia? Because I just thought about this West Virginia thing. I go through the Turnpike all the time, going back and forth from North Carolina to Ohio. How far are you from the West Virginia Turnpike?
I'm actually not too sure about that question. That I definitely have to look at that.
Okay. I'm just curious. I didn't know if any time I came through you would be at a local track or whatever. What's the biggest buck have you killed? I've seen some pictures with some massive points on there. What's the biggest one, and do you have any hanging on your wall that you've personally taken down?
Yeah, the biggest deer I've actually killed has been in Kansas, and it was a 181-inch deer. It was a really good. I was hunting with my dad, and we waited for a long time before this deer walked out, and I ended up shooting it, and we celebrated a lot because it was one of the biggest deer that our family have killed. But, yeah, that was the biggest deer I've ever killed, and it was in Kansas. Yep.
Do you have a local track? That was a question that was brought up. Do you have a local track that you go to locally, either race at or a family goes out to and goes to?
No, we actually don't have any local tracks that we go to in West Virginia. But one of the local tracks we go to in North Carolina is at Wake County Speedway.
Gotcha. I've been to quite a few tracks in North Carolina. I spent 20-something years in there, so I know a little bit about the tracks that way. Been to a few local around Charlotte. Of course, been to Charlotte Motor Speedway more times than I could count. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming on here. Definitely got to learn a lot about you. Hopefully our listeners do too. Hopefully we get you back on later in the season or as the season wraps up. Hopefully we can talk about a W as well. Before we get you out of here, as I stated at the beginning, I want to give you an opportunity to plug your social media and shout out to your sponsors before you get out of here. That way the listeners can follow you, like you, or whatever, and the sponsors, they get a smile on their face because they got a shout out.
Yeah, thank you for having me on today, and I'd like to thank Bobby Roberts Logging, Graham County Mulch, All Construction Racing, All Construction, ACR Motorsports, Joe Round Race Cars, Team Hornaday Development, ARI, and Brake Safe for just everything they do in making my racing possible, as well as everybody from the Joe Round Race Cars crew and the Hornaday Development crew.
We want to thank everybody that's made this possible, your PRs, my PRs. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Good luck on the rest of the season. And like I said, hopefully we get you back and talk a little bit more about your racing career.
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and every social media account you can think of. I might have at Isaac Kitzmiller Racing. And thank you for having me on today. It was nice talking to you.